Welcome to the Asia Tech Podcast. I'm Gustavo Liu, and this is PitchDeck Asia. Well, now I'm with Harith Bakri. He's all the way from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Welcome, Harith.
Hey, thanks.
And this is your second time back in the show.
Yeah.
Back then was like July.
Yeah, it was July.
Fantastic. We're doing this whole series of follow-up with a lot of the startups that we interview back. And you spoke to Graham
Yep, that's
back
right.
in July,
Yeah.
right? How was that first experience like?
Well, it was like my first live interview. It was like, I'm quite nervous.
Was it nerve-wracking?
Yeah, I was quite nervous. Yeah.
It's good experience.
Yeah,
It is
definitely,
good.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like I think having that very early, by the time you go on stage and you do pitch, right? You still have to meet investors and all of that.
Right.
It's sort of, this is a little bit less nerve-wracking than sitting in front of the VCs, maybe.
Yeah.
Because this is actually cast on stone and you could be able to go back and see it on YouTube. So, but welcome. Amazing to have
Thanks.
you. I saw your recording with Graham, learned a lot about you. Excited to find out more about your journey to entrepreneurship,
Definitely.
especially because first you're not from Singapore, right? And you do fly back and forth from KL to here, which isn't that far. But secondly, because you are very young, you are like one of the younger sort of entrepreneurs that I've actually interviewed on the show. I do work with a lot of entrepreneurs here in Singapore, and in different parts of the world. I think our youngest founder is around 16. So and you started your business around 15, isn't it?
Not really study, but I initially did programming first at 14. And then, I code apps on the island through business and marketing, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at some point, because you said you founded a different business before this one, and that entire sort of journey is sort of brought you to where you are today.
Yeah.
And how long have you been running Galaspace now?
It's almost a year, actually.
About a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can't wait to see. So what happened this past 3 months?
We were working along with my first interview with Graham. It was pre-launch.
Yep.
Yeah. So just like telling about
the features and the journey and the why, and a little bit recap for our audience who are listening. Obviously, you all who haven't heard it, that was a great recording. Go back and listen to that one right after this one. Tell us a little bit about what Galaspace is.
Galaspace is an event marketplace. So we want to make it a one-stop center. So in short, it's like Airbnb for events. So you want to organize events. There's always an event venue, event services like event catering, photographers, or even performing live bands. So you can just connect with them in just one platform.
It's
quite
like
easy.
a marketplace for events.
Yeah, it's a marketplace.
Yeah. And there's a huge demand now, obviously, because especially with the growing sort of trend of creating co-working spaces, and as well as sort of companies realizing that they do need to reach out to the community. You serve sort of like a middle gap. You're solving for a gap where you connect those events locations, the service providers, with all of those companies that want to benefit from hosting events themselves. We host events a lot in my company at the Hungry Lab, and essentially bringing content to a lot of these co-working spaces and office spaces. Really, there is value. One of the biggest challenges that we find is that we do everything by ourselves, and it's extremely tedious and repetitive. So be able to find somewhere like Galaspace and use it, which we start using it.
I'm glad that solution is for you.
That makes our lives a lot easier. And I just had a look as well how frictionless and how easy you've created the website to be. How has this past 3 months sort of changed? Has the business changed? Has there been any sort of iteration on the system?
Actually there's few changes. The team changed.
Okay, let's talk about their team. How did that? What happened?
Two of the core founder left because we didn't see it fit among us each other. So we came up with a new member, which are more towards more experience.
Back then was how many of you?
4, definitely 4.
There were 4
Yeah,
at the time,
yeah.
and now it's 3.
4 again.
It's still 4.
Yeah.
And two of them were swapped.
Yeah, swap.
Okay.
So the new team is much more experienced. It's much more committed.
What sort of skills have they brought on to the
So
team?
yeah, 2 of our members. One is still studying actually, but he has been working in the financial industry quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And then one is like real CTO, has been working for about more than 10 years. So
And you're a programmer by your background, right?
Yes, I am a computer science student also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your CTO right now is more like the software engineer.
Yeah,
He understands more
yeah.
the architecture of the technology.
So he's been working for a big data company in Singapore also actually.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he has like more than 10 years of experience.
Yep. And then so your role has it shifted?
Yeah, I would say.
How has it evolved from since July? Because back then it were 4 people as well, but then it was a different skill set, right? So the demand for what you needed to do, but what was it and how has it changed till now?
So yeah, with the new CTO came in, it was like quite mind blowing for me because why has been given the advice, all this kind of experience that he shared. It's quite a lot. Initially, it was a lot for me to digest it.
Yep.
And then after a while, I have to really get myself to really prepared on what the things that need to be done if the product's done also.
Yep.
So I have to shift my part into community building.
Yeah.
And to like brand partnership.
So you didn't have the focus wasn't community building back then.
So initially it was product management.
Okay. Yeah. And obviously, like that adds on to like the whole sort of acquisition for customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being out there in the public, it's why you eventually realize you needed to be playing at.
Yeah, that's right.
How can you talk to a little bit, because this is so important, like understanding the importance of community. It takes a mind shift, and I've worked with many entrepreneurs where founders, which essentially started off thinking about the product. And then at some point, it takes a realization that it's beyond building that product. It's about building everything that surrounds the product.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the community, which takes a whole different set of skill sets. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So yeah, I think you could see in the real life business is that, Uber and Grab, they've been competing for a while in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So what Grab took for the step is that they know the culture of Asian culture actually.
Yeah.
So initially, like I was like Grab user since 2014, and I do not have my credit card until I reach 18.
Yeah.
So this is one of the constraints that Uber had to face. They were not really prepared to face the culture yet. So with that, I could see what needs to be done and what we need to prepare also.
Yeah.
To get in touch with the people first. So it's not about sales first. It's about people and community first.
But beyond that is also the network effect, right?
Yeah.
If you had just built a platform and expected that people would come without taking into consideration that having that network effect of what community platforms have that capacity to keep getting the people engaged, then the platform finds it very hard to sustain itself. Whereas that continuous engagement of a community you can't replace that.
Yeah.
And that interest, you have to keep throwing. So it kind of becomes like, instead of just building a single marketplace platform, you kind of have to start creating content. You have to start getting information and material that the community will be interested in. How has that journey been, and has it been challenging?
I would say the challenge part is to get we've been actually interviewing several organizers.
Yep.
Such as TEDx, HackerX, and also Startup Weekend. They've been sharing. I've been interviewing them. So they've been sharing about their experiences and all that. So from the customer side, from the user side, they're able to see what's like to organize events and all that. And I see that content and marketing is quite necessary and quite imperative.
And it's kind of hard to acquire, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And how have you guys gone about to acquire that as advice to startups that are trying to build communities?
So yeah, Actually, we've been going through offline marketing, which
Yeah.
is going to events by events. So we like spread the word about what our platform is, and in exchange for that, we also kind of like a bit of free marketing for them also.
Yeah.
So we actually interviewing them in real time,
Yeah.
and then the organizers will share about their interview, and they will get we get the free publicity also.
Yeah.
Because they've been quite influential.
It's like leverage multiplier
Yeah,
effects.
yeah, that's
Essentially,
right.
you like they come with with you guys, and you guys also like get you know
Yeah,
use that
mutual benefit. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that strategic partnership is just very important. It's sort of like a barter exchange. But then both of your platforms will benefit from it.
Yeah.
A community, I would say, is probably one of the hardest for people to realize, especially when you're going to the B2B2C.
Yeah.
And
That's
that is where you guys are sort of targeting, right? The
Yeah.
B2B2C. Have you identified what are some of the pain points that people are looking at and what keeps them engaged in communities?
So firstly is that B2C we actually can't really target mass market yet, because we need to find a core customer, the early adopters.
Yeah.
So we need to so our suitable early adopters are students.
Okay.
So I see the real life experience that I went in high school, which is we had to go tuition,
Yeah.
and the problem is that for 1 to 5 group tuition, the problem is the location.
Yeah.
So this is one of the pain points that we able to discover, and it's going to be a continuous for these tutors to be on our platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is the B2C
Yeah.
front. What about the B2B?
The B2B is quite difficult for us actually.
Because you have to, there's
Yeah.
always that supply and there's
Yeah.
a demand
Yeah.
side, right? So the demand you're talking about is the students going to the tuition,
Yeah.
but then you've got the supply side, which is essentially the guys that are
Yeah.
putting all the courses, the modules, and teaching.
Yeah. For the B2B, it's quite a challenge for us, because we need to really be our repo, and we need to get
Connections.
and it's all going through by referral.
Yeah.
And at our stage, it's quite a challenge for us. Yeah.
Okay. So right now you're sort of looking for people and organizations that are able to help you with that. With that aspect,
True,
right?
true.
Okay. Let's look a little bit at your deck. So right now, Galaspace, it's categorized as events planning.
Yeah.
It's a digital events planning. And these, the problem statement you went through, and that hasn't changed since July. Is that right? What has changed, however, is the way that you implement your solution. The solution is still the same, right? But it's the way that you draw the sort of crowd around to utilize your solution. So right now, your first to go market, where is it? Is it Malaysia or Singapore?
Singapore first.
It's Singapore first.
Yeah.
Okay. So you use it in Singapore. Where is your team based?
Actually, our office address is at SUTD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We're resident mentors at SUTD. The Hungry Lab is the resident mentor there. So next time I'm at SUTD, we should let's
meet up.
Yeah. I think there's a beer place also. Just for the benefit of our audience, can you just sort of run through how it works?
So it's like Airbnb, but we wanted to make it smooth and all that, because organizing events, it's quite hard, and it takes weeks of planning also. So so if you want to organize a birthday party, just search a location, proper location, and then what type of event that you want to organize, then search, and then you could see the listings and all that.
Yeah. Nowadays, I've seen a lot of marketplaces solving for different problems, and I think the one that you are solving is definitely a very real problem.
Yeah.
And it's essentially, can I get the aggregate of what is and more visibility of what is in the market, so that I can make a more sound decision before I commit to an agreement, right? And in the events space, that is very real, because events cost. you need to justify, especially for companies, whether you will have to, for every dollar you spend, are you getting the type of outcome that you expect?
The ROI.
And that is essentially what you guys want to solve with the events company. You mentioned that it's been extremely challenging onboarding the sort of B2B.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you're facing?
So the challenge is that they don't want to attain us.
Okay.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And second, we don't have the proper portfolio yet because we were still new.
Yeah.
And it's like a chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that we had to face. We are currently facing. So the best way to escape from chicken and egg is B2C.
B2C, yeah. So build your portfolio first, build a community, and then once you have the number, you have that data, then the B2B will see value in you, and they will essentially come in. But again, it's a chicken and egg thing, because if your C doesn't see that there is the supply, there's no supply at all coming on here, it's just like a discussion forum. So you don't want to end it up like just like a discussion forum. You want them to actually utilize, because that is where you make money, right? What is your revenue model?
So we actually have like 3 ways of revenue model, which is 5% as we organize events for them. Let's just say events are one of the events, it's quite complex and all that, so we're gonna like gain commission from it also. And then also sponsored listings. It's like sponsored the listings will be in the prioritized it's like when it first come up, and you could see it. And then lastly is like commission from vendors. So first time transaction is 10%, follow up will be 7%. So we get 7% each from each vendors.
Cool. At what stage is the company right now? Are you guys already monetizing, or this is a revenue model that you plan to implement?
We actually currently implementing that actually.
It's already implemented. So everybody who goes on the system and starts to utilize, they would be
so they will be aware of this kind of revenue model that we are seeking.
Cool. And right now, what is the traction so far?
So currently we don't really have that much of traction right now, especially in the customer base.
But what about the community area?
So we actually already have about 30 vendors.
Okay.
So mostly from event services, such as we already have like MCs performing live arts bands, food catering and all that. And service
the
space.
vendors and all that, and they essentially want to have a bigger pipeline of potential customers, right?
So they want to reach out to more customers and utilize it as well.
I'm also curious, like, is the system able to help these service providers and the vendors to sort of identify their pricing? Where do they stack amongst competition? How do they compare amongst other similar type of service providers?
Actually, one of my co-founder had a meeting with several vendors, is that the pricing factor. So we kind of like they have to implement competitive pricing.
So you will actually feedback to the vendors themselves and saying, look, across the board, one of the reasons why you're not getting that much business is because, I mean, pricing is one, right? But it could be other factors, like because you're not providing this service. Do you think that as an MC, if you're just only doing like tech events, for example, would you be open? There seems to be more on the, I don't know, like the manga cosplay space, right? Can you cross that and like start exploring that? Do you actually give feedback to the vendors?
So some of the vendors, such as the food catering, they're able to open much more perspective in how they can expand their business.
It's like if you're doing chicken curry, like you need to start doing more fish head curry. And then on the community side, how is the traction so far?
We actually like develop Facebook group. For event planners, so we're gonna like invite event planners to share their tips and how they can.
So write blogs and stuff.
It's like also like how they can save costs and all that.
I find this fascinating because we work with a couple marketplaces, and it's sort of like, if for lack of a better word, right, it's like a Skyscanner or a Airbnb or Hotel.com for a particular segment need, and in your case, it's like events. So essentially, instead of going on Skyscanner and looking for like the cheapest ticket available for that particular dates and particular sort of time that you want to fly, you're essentially able to aggregate all of that data for vendor suppliers for events. We've and very similar to your business model, we work for another company in the US where they do for wedding planning, and they're just focused on wedding planning. I think in Singapore there's definitely a huge demand for having more visibility, because you just never know where, I mean, even setting up ordering like those little gifts. I was at an event yesterday, and they left gifts on your table for every person, but then like how tedious it is today to go and procure for those products so that you have that. And then they had an MC. I wouldn't know, because we moderate all of our events, but like if I was to go and look for a moderator, I wouldn't know where. Like I would probably Google on like Gumtree or classify some form of classifiers. Be able to aggregate that data, and it's essentially about making better decisions. How has the public sort of and doing your marketing sort of to the public, how have they sort of welcomed the platform?
So yeah, initially I also target students actually, because it's
still like the education sector. Yeah.
It's like it's the best way and also the cheapest way that I could reach out to.
Yeah. Which sector of students? Because students is everything from like kindergarten to like like masters and PhD.
So I would say specifically target to university students, because I'm in university also. So when I pitch to them, because they have a subject called curricular activity, so they have like kind of like have to organize events such as charity, sports, or anything.
Yep.
So this is one of the pin points that the students have to carry out. And to address that issue is that I pitch to them, and they've been really open to this kind of things.
Yep.
It's just that obviously the student costs, Yep. Yeah. So the cost is actually the problem for the students, but also what we're trying to solve, also trying to make things affordable.
Yeah. Are you currently incubated under SUTD?
No.
But are you part of the whole incubation, like the innovation entrepreneurship program?
Yeah, I would say not me, but my co-founder is.
Oh, he's part of that, because you mentioned SUTD and they have a very robust, a very good resource sort of ecosystem there. I've been part of that hackathon and everything. Yeah. So it does make sense, right? Because one thing is that SUTD itself geographically in Singapore is located all the way in near Expo. Yeah. And so for a lot of students to make it all the way to the city for events and all of that it does become a somewhat of a challenge. And right now, are you still part of SUTD, or you're no longer part of SUTD?
I'm not a student of SUTD actually.
I mean, like your co-founders.
Yeah, I'm still studying actually.
Okay. That is a great resource. Be able to access to that university network. And also, if you can apply for that incubation program, that'll be fantastic. So I shout out to Kenneth. He might be listening to us live, maybe not. I'm still hoping to get him on live. But yeah, so right now, you mentioned that the company, it's gone 3 months, and some of the challenges you're facing, it's essentially trying to get more traction of the supplier, more of the traction. Have you identified some of the strategies that you could go about getting traction?
Yes, that's right.
And then going forward, what sort of resources are you looking for?
Actually, we kind of like obviously we are actually looking for funding also to boost up our marketing and sales. Yep. And we would like to expand also.
You like to expand,
the team.
And what sort of skill sets would you be looking for?
I would say the ones who are more experienced in the event space industry, events management. Yeah.
What about community management?
Yeah, that probably we are looking for that one too.
Yeah, because I think event space and community management, they sometimes could go hand in hand. Yeah, and having somebody who has that experience and that background, it will really help you to amplify both on the acquisition side, but also on the sort of onboarding of the supplier side, right? Your competitive advantage is essentially it's frictionless, right? You want to remove all of that easiness and getting that visibility. It's extremely user friendly, but also I would say that it allows people to have a better decision whenever they want to add it saves time, and that is essentially the more important thing. How are you raising at the moment?
Yes, that's right.
What are you raising, and what sort of investors are you looking for?
So 3 months back, we are actually looking for 120K, which is then my co-founder came in. So it's quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we amend to 250K.
Oh, you raised 250.
Yeah. We are actually raising to.
You're raising 250 now.
Decrease to 50K Singapore dollar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were raising 130 back then when you were with Graham.
Yeah, Graham.
And now you are only raising 50K because of your co-founders managed to like help you to bootstrap a lot of that. What would you do with 50K?
Mostly, according to PitchDeck, is that we like to expand team, get more user acquisitions. Also try to build community also, because building community is quite challenging.
How would you go about building that community? Because as you've been doing now, seems to be getting somewhat of a attention. And coming onto the show, obviously, we'll get more listeners to come in. Would you be looking at hosting your events by any chance?
Yeah, in the future. Yeah. Coming soon. Yeah, definitely coming soon.
That requires a whole different skill set.
Yeah.
I remember it doesn't come naturally for me. Many years back when I had to host my own events, like I would be like, pissing my pants before I go on stage. But right now, it's just so natural. I can do it on my sleep.
Wow.
And it's like training a different muscle.
Yeah.
And we do events on regularly. I would actually like to see how we can work together on events.
Sure.
I'm always looking for younger entrepreneurs who are coming into the ecosystem very early, because that is when time is really by your side. You get a lot of time to really, and then you have that drive, right? As compared to somebody who is probably much older. That lack of drive and being jaded, it's probably not in their favor.
Yeah.
Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? Or was it
really
accidental?
At the age of 14, I wanted to be a footballer. Well, something related to football, because I'm a massive football fan, actually.
Yeah. And how did I get into like programming?
Through a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a YouTube video called Code Stars, where they share about Twitter CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates all talk about how coding could really change you.
Yeah.
And definitely changed me also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it change you in what sense? Was there money on the back of your mind, or was it more like change your life to be more like sort of programming?
So at the age of 14, I was like quite, not really serious about anything actually. I did not have any kind of purpose in life.
Yeah.
So with that video that I watched, it changed every perspective in my life. Such as that I become much more composed person. Obviously the money is still going around in my head also.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm much more open-minded, getting more, listening more instead of talking. Yeah.
Well, but one of the things about being an entrepreneur is essentially be able to create things out of nothing.
Solving problems.
Yeah, solving real problems. And I think there has been studies done over the years, and it's shown that consistently successful entrepreneurs, they possess one common ability, which is essentially to identify problems in the world on a constant basis. I mean, some people call it being opportunistic, but I also believe that, and I am an entrepreneur, and I don't think it's being opportunistic at all. It's about seeing you really do want to solve a problem. And money, like what you said, yeah, it's somewhat in the back of your mind, but it's not so much about like how much millions you're gonna make in a couple of years, but it's more like how are you gonna sustain your business? Can you make enough to sort of take your these particular ideas to the next level. And I think it's all about survival mode.
Yeah.
And that is where it's oftentimes commonly misunderstood as being opportunistic by a lot of people who aren't really inside the sort of entrepreneurial circle.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now I see that you've done quite a few other businesses in the past. You were a co-founder at Calendario.
Yeah, that was my first app that I could. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Galaspace, and then now you created another one, is Teenage Entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I'm just a regional chapter host. So
Okay.
just creating events actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very inspiring what you're doing, especially and
thank you.
is that part of the community that you're building?
Kind of like leverage both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And when you're going towards the student space, a lot of them are living and trying to do businesses and explore how to do it, because it's so romanticized over the years, right?
I would say the reason why I became a regional chapter host is that I actually would like to get the people like at my age to get off their comfort seat and do something that really they are passionate of.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm really trying to pursue that idea right now.
Is that how you onboarded your co-founders?
Not really. Different way actually. Because they are much more older. Yeah.
They're older?
Yeah, they're older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they from the people that were already working at the time when they joined you?
Yeah. Yeah, they are actually working in full time.
Yeah. I think it's really good as well that you were able to sell that vision and bring them on board with you.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen? Because now you are the VP of product and community head for Galaspace. What are your other co-founders' roles?
So yeah, we have like three co-founders, four, including me. So there are two of us who are more technical side.
Mm-hmm.
So mostly in programming, technical product development, and then one is Kenzo Tan Junyoung is the one that studies in SUTD.
Yep.
So he's been on the financial side.
Yeah.
Been working in that. So he has to what's it called adapt to his new role, which is business development and marketing.
Okay.
So we kind of like learn new-ish things every day about our role.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what about Ayman and Max?
So yeah, Max is the most experienced guy in the technical side. He's been quite experienced in the startup ecosystem, in entrepreneurship. So he managed to raise few rounds. Also, he's been really advising us how we can really get our business to start forward. And mostly it's like mentor plus / boss also sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And
boss as in like he takes the lead to say which direction we should lead. And with his number of experiences with DBS, UOB, and OSIM, obviously he's had quite a fair amount of And Ayman.
So Ayman, we actually went to high school.
Okay.
So he's older than me also.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's been working in few companies in Malaysia. So I approached to him and said, why don't we just do as a side project first and then see how it goes. So he's been really involving in the front end and also back end into the development of our platform.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you guys met any? Because obviously you mentioned that you are looking for a BD and a community builder. Have you thought about what would be the profile of that person for our listeners who are listening and might be interested to apply?
So yeah, we actually, the people that we are trying to seek out is the one who are quite experienced with the co-working space, because I see that most co-working spaces have really hired community manager.
Yep.
And with that role, they have experiences in managing events.
Yeah.
So both that role goes hand in hand also. So this is one of the people that we want to reach out.
And would they come on as staff or as one of the equity sort of early stage?
Yeah, both sides are possible. Yeah.
Both sides are possible. Okay. I might have some guys that I could recommend you, because we work quite a lot with co-working spaces. That is where we build that partnership.
Yeah.
And they always want to look for events opportunities. So to summarize, you are looking for 50,000 raise at this current early stage, very, very early stage
True.
C round. And the profile of investor is somebody who will be able to open some doors for you, specifically in the sort of events, or organizations that throw events a lot, right? And then you're looking for to hire somebody, hire or like a partner, right? Somebody to bring in.
I would say partner the best way.
So it would be a combination of like equity or possibly like cash and equity. And what else are you looking? Customers. We're always looking for customers.
Yeah, that's right.
And could you give us a profile of a customers? Like, I know you talked about events, but like, what would be a profile of a customer? Because these events could span from everything, really.
Okay, so actually, our early adopters are mostly the ones who are in the education, the ones who are in the building events, workshop organizers. So these are the people that we want to reach out because they hold events almost like bi-monthly event. So this is one of the people that we want to reach out. And this would seem to be fit to us. But also we actually, the customers that we want to expand also mass market. You can be someone who organize a informal birthday party, weddings and all that. So it can be anything.
Okay, so like events planner, like wedding planners and all that. Even a lot of like sort of entertainment venues, right? They would have packages or anything like that, but then yet they would have to have a good database of speakers, MCs, and flower delivery and all of that. But at least now you're giving them an additional option. Fantastic. Well, it's been great talking to you, Harith. And I would be looking forward to see if when you come on 3 months later onto the show, I see how far you are at. And it's great that you have decided to cut down on your raise. One of the things that we often see is that people want to raise more and more and more and more. But with every dollar you raise, you have more responsibility, right? So be able to really bootstrap in your first couple of year or month until you get to that growth rate, that growth level to command for higher valuation is gold, because that will essentially determine how much equity is kept within the core organization. And I think a lot of startups today missed out on that because they keep thinking that they want to raise multi-million rounds, but then they end up giving up their entire sort of company. So I just have one more question before we end. I know you already told our audience back then. So how can our audience reach you if they are interested in investing in you or come and work for you?
So you can just call me. But you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn or any social media. I'll be open to that because I'm like open to anyone who are able to benefit both sides.
And great. So they would go into your LinkedIn, which is Harith Bakri. Bakri. Did I pronounce it right? Thank you so much, Harith. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And we will, let's virtually reach out our hands to shake. And we will be back again shortly. Thank you so much. And this is PitchDeck Asia. This is Gustavo. Thank you for listening.